The wind whispered through the barren trees, carrying with it the promise of winter's chill. 5 friends, Lena, Jack, Maya, Ethan, and Sam, set out on what was meant to be a simple weekend hike through the Blue Ridge Mountains. Ethan, born and raised in these parts, had warned them about the unpredictable nature of the mountains. "The weather here," he'd said, his eyes dark with unspoken knowledge. "It can turn on you faster than you can blink." As they trudged along the frost-covered trail, the silence of the forest pressed in around them. The usual chatter of birds and rustling of small animals was conspicuously absent. It was as if the woods themselves were holding their breath, waiting for something. The first day passed uneventfully, but as night fell, an unsettling feeling crept over the group. They made camp in a small clearing, the fire crackling merrily, a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness beyond its light. Lena noticed at first a sudden drop in temperature that seemed to suck the warmth from their very bones. "Does anyone else feel that?" she asked, her breath visible in the frigid air. Before anyone could answer, a smell hit them, not the earthy scent of the forest or the smoke from their fire, but something ... wrong. It was the scent of meat left too long in a freezer, desiccated and tainted. Maya gagged, her hand flying to her mouth. "What is that?" Jack whispered, his eyes wide with fear. Ethan's voice cut through the night, sharp and urgent. Don't speak of it. Don't even think about it." But it was too late. In the silence that followed, they heard it, a sound like dry leaves being crushed underfoot, but slower, more deliberate. Something was moving just beyond the ring of firelight, something impossibly tall and thin. Sam reached for a flashlight, but Ethan's hand shot out, stopping him. "No," he hissed. "No light. It'll only draw it closer." The fire flickered, its flames turning an eerie blue for a moment. The air grew colder still, and with it came a hunger, not just in their stomachs, but in their very souls. It was a gnawing emptiness that threatened to consume them from the inside out. Huddled close together, they listened as Ethan spoke in hushed tones of an old legend his grandmother had told him, of a creature born of famine and greed, a spirit that roamed these mountains in the depths of winter. The Wendigo. He called it a being of insatiable hunger that fed not just on flesh, but on the very concept of satiety. "The colder it gets," Ethan whispered, his eyes darting to the darkness beyond their camp, "the closer it comes. And it's always hungry." None of them slept that night. They took turns keeping watch, jumping at every snapping twig and rustling leaf. When dawn finally broke, they breathed a collective sigh of relief, but their reprieve was short-lived. As they packed up camp, Maya spotted something on the trail ahead. A deer lay sprawled across the path, its body wasted to little more than skin stretched over bone. There were no visible wounds, no sign of what had killed it. It was as if the animal had been drained of life itself, leaving behind only a husk. The smell from the night before returned, stronger now. It clung to their clothes, their hair seeming to seep into their very pores. And with it came the hunger, a ravenous, all-consuming need that gnawed at their insides. Lena doubled over, clutching her stomach. "I'm so hungry," she moaned. "I've never been this hungry in my life." Jack nodded, his face pale. Me too. It's like I could eat anything, everything. They shared what little food they had left, but it did nothing to sat the growing hunger. As they continued their hike, the feeling only intensified. Every rustle in the underbrush made them think of prey. Every shadow seemed to hide potential sustenance. Maya found herself eyeing her friends, wondering how much meat was on their bones. She shook her head, horrified at the thought, but it lingered at the edges of her mind. The day wore on, the sun never quite breaking through the heavy cloud cover. The temperature continued to drop, and with each degree, the presence they'd felt the night before seemed to draw closer. They began to see things moving in the corner of their eyes tall, skeletal figures that vanished when looked at directly. The hunger grew worse, a physical pain that threatened to drive them mad. As night fell once more, they knew they couldn't stop. To make camp again would be to invite the Wendigo to their fire. So they pressed on, using their flashlights sparingly, always aware of the sounds of something following just out of sight. It was Ethan who saw it first, figure standing in the middle of the trail ahead, impossibly tall and thin. Its skin was stretched tight over its bones, its eyes sunken and glowing with an unearthly hunger. For a moment they all stood frozen, unable to process the horror before them. Then, as one, they turned and ran. They crashed through the underbrush, branches whipping at their faces, roots threatening to trip them at every step. Behind them, they could hear it not running, but moving with a terrible, inexorable slowness that somehow kept pace with their frantic flight. The hunger that had been gnawing at them all day exploded into a frenzy. Sam found himself wanting to stop, to turn and face the creature, to let it consume him, if only to end the terrible emptiness inside. But they ran on, driven by a primal fear that overrode even the maddening hunger. They ran until their lungs burned and their legs threatened to give out beneath them. Just when it seemed they could go no further, they burst out of the tree line onto a road. A car was approaching, its headlights cutting through the darkness like a beacon of hope. They flagged it down, piling into the back seat with no explanation beyond gasped pleas to drive, just drive, as the car sped away. They looked back at the forest. There, at the edge of the trees, stood the Wendigo. It made no move to follow, but its eyes glowed with a promise. This wasn't over. The hunger would return, and with it, the creature that embodied it. In the days that followed, they tried to rationalize what had happened. Maybe it was just the cold, the isolation playing tricks on their minds. But in the quiet moments, when the world grew still and the nights turned cold, they could feel it, that hollow hunger, waiting to be fed. And sometimes, in their dreams, they heard the sound of dry leaves crushing underfoot, drawing ever closer.